Okay, okay. So this is for a presentation that I wasn't able to make at the family reunion, and not because anybody's fault. There's a lot of things going on, and time got away from us in the middle of fun activities and communication with each other. But this right here, I'm pretty sure a few of you got these books. At least 25 of you got it. I only got two left, so there's a lot of them out there. But just in case you didn't get a copy or you didn't get a chance to read it, I'm going to go through this booklet. We call it the Edward J. Mitchell Family Legacy Booklet. It's a centennial celebration. This year we celebrated the fact that Granddad was born in 1925. And the year of this family reunion was 2025. So as you see, it was created for the Mitchell family reunion. And another member, Edward J. Mitchell. Senior, we gotta say senior because there's another Edward J. Mitchell. We call him Uncle Tessie, but he's also Edward James Mitchell as well, Edward James Mitchell Jr. So we gotta keep that in mind. These aren't the names senior, just like my son, Maurice Mitchell. I don't want. I'm not ready to be called a senior yet, but I guess that's what it would be. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. All right. Born May 15, 1925, the Centennial Reflection. Edward J. Mitchell, known to us, known to all of us simply as Granddad, was born on May 15, 1925, to John Thomas Mitchell of Virginia and Maggie Shepard Mitchell. Maggie Shepard Mitchell is from North Carolina. North Carolina. His birth marked the blending, and not just North Carolina. She was from this area, the area that we're familiar with, that was called the Topsail Township. At one point in time, Topsail Township was called Grant Township, but they changed that name after the Civil War, and that's some of the reason why how Edgecombe got his name. Edgecombe got his name after the Civil War. We'll talk about that in another video. His birth marked the blending of two strong family lines, the Mitchells and the Shepards. It set the stage for a lineage rooted in resilience, tradition, and deep community ties. And there's a picture of Granddad. This picture right here, alongside, if you look over here on the side of him, you see how high that shoulder is? That's his brother. Actually, his little big brother. That's his little brother, Uncle Rosalie. And Uncle Rosalie was tall, and you can see he has a son we call Nip, and he's tall as well. But that was his brother. This picture was cropped out of that picture. Roots that run deep. Edward's father, John Thomas Mitchell, also known as Tom Mitchell or JT, was born March 15, 1876. According to draft registrations, records, he worked in the lumber mill industry, a labor-intensive trade that supported many families at that time. And Granddad was also listed. Granddad, when I say Granddad, I'm talking to my cousins, my first cousins, and second cousins that are descendants of Edward J. Mitchell. Granddad also worked at one point in time. He worked in the lumber mill. That I'm not sure how long, but that was on one of his documents. I think it was one of the census. His draft card described him as a medium build, described him as medium built and stout, a term that spoke to both his physical strength and sturdy character. Um, and that when you're doing this research, this family research, there's all kinds of tools out there that you can use to cross-reference yourself. You can use census records, you can use death certificates, you can use marriage certificates. One of them that's not widely used, I guess, is the draft records, and that can be important because on the draft. Let me see. Do I have the draft card on here? Listen, this is the draft record. If you look, you find a lot of good information off of this draft record. Let me see if I can pull it on. Sorry. Okay, so you see here, let me see number one. Okay, so you see here, his name was listed as John Thomas Mitchell. Home address was in Slough Point, which is Plymouth County, Slough Point. He was 42 years old, and his date of birth on here is marked as March 15, 1876. Now, on the marriage, when him and Grandma Maggie Shepherd got married, you're going to see a discrepancy with this birth date, or not the birth date, but the birth year. And after cross checking it several times with different census and stuff like that, and the death certificate, maybe not the death certificate, but other official records, 1876 appears to be the right date. And I'm going to show that, and it's going to come up another cross reference in a minute. And of course, this draft registration form was filled out when, let's see if I can find out when it was filled out, in 1918. So this is when he filled out this draft registration form, was in 1918. Okay, and so of course it's listed. There's only so many things you could check. There was white, Negro, Oriental, and Indian, citizen and non-citizen. Okay, native born, and here we go with his labor again. He was labor, and he did work in the lumber field, dealing with lumber, labor mill, or lumber mill. What's interesting to me, if you look here, his employer's name is Richard Moore. Now wait a minute. His employer's name is Richard Moore, and that's very interesting because interesting. And there's another story that goes with this Moore surname, last name, and he was married. The nearest relative point of contact was Maggie Mitchell, which was his wife, of course. And you'll see down here, John Thomas Mitchell, this signature. Okay, and so here you would get a description of what he looked like. You get his birthday, and this is valuable information that can be used. You see that his height, all right? You see that his height was listed as medium. So he wasn't short, he wasn't tall, he was medium height, and you had slender build, medium build, or stout. In fact, let's look up what stout build is. Stout. Stout build mean, hold on. Stout build generally refers to a physical build that is broad, solid, and often somewhat heavy, with strong muscular appearance. It can also imply strong or sturdy build, and not necessarily fat. So solid and broad. So pretty much, it was, you would say that that's pretty much Granddad's build. Granddad wasn't slender. He wasn't meaty. He was pretty stout as well. Color of the eyes, black. The color of the hair was black. Okay, so as soon as I got it out. All right. Who's that run? Okay, so on according, he worked in the lumber mill, built of stout. Okay, his draft back here. His draft card described him as medium build and stout, a term that spoke to both his physical strength and sturdy character. All right. John Mitchell married Maggie Shepherd, who became known to all of us as Grandma Maggie. Together, they raised a large family over many years. By the 1930s, Census records show John and Maggie living under one roof with 6 of their children. The youngest whom was Rosalie Mitchell, only 1 year old, while the oldest child in the house was 19. John Mitchell was 53 years old at the time of Rosalie's birth, still growing his family until the later age. Remember I told you that it was going to come back up, a cross check of his age. So you'll see here that it's got its estimate birth year at 1877. It's got an estimated birth year at 1877. See, but depending on when the census was taken, you understand? Depending on when the census was taken, that's how you'll always find these little discrepancies. 1 year above, 1 year over, or 1 year behind. A lot of times when we're doing granddad's looking through his records, some years it say born in 24, some years it say born in 25. It all depended on the year. It all depended on the month that the numerator came and took the census. All right, so here we have, he's 53 years old, estimated birth at, estimated birth at 1877. Birthplace is Virginia, all right? And this is one of the first, birthplace is listed as Virginia, okay? When we come over here, and what do we see over here? We can see that there were a few Mitchells in this neighborhood, few Mitchells that were getting married, especially over here in Willie. When we get over down here, we'll see where right here. You see that? This line right here? J.T. Mitchell. That's why I said sometimes you'll see him as J.T. Mitchell, John Thomas Mitchell. But look at the age difference between him and Grandma Maggie. The age difference. This is why I said when they got married, he dropped his age. He dropped his age considerably, a lot. Okay, so but the official records show that he was born 1876 in March. All right. So let's go back up here. Love, laws, and lineage. In his adult years, Edward James Mitchell, granddad, married Etta Mae Batts, our grandmother, a union that will further enrich our family tree. Etta Mae, though a Batts by name, carried with her the bloodline of the Sidburys. Her mother, Grandma Evelyn, who was also known as Evelyn Adele Batts, lived in a household married to Abner Batts. But her biological, but Etta Mae's biological father was in fact a Sidbury. And so through Grandma Etta Mae, we trace our heritage not only to the Batts, but also the Sidburys. And from there, the Howards, though that's a branch we'll revisit another time. Now, you may be wondering, if Grandma Evelyn was truly a Sidbury, right, can you see that? You may be wondering, if Grandma Evelyn, there we go, if Grandma Evelyn was truly a Sidbury, then how are we still Batts? And that's a great question. The answer, we're Batts again through Granddad. See, Granddad's mother, Maggie Shepherd, was the daughter of Dora Batts, whose maiden name carried on the Batts legacy. Dora was the daughter of Willis and Winnie Batts, taking us all the way back to the early 1800s. And I'm gonna show records of all this in another video. I got all of these records, early 1800s. So whether through Granddad or Grandma Etta Mae, the Batts run strong in our veins. So yes, through Granddad alone, You're connected to the Mitchells, Shepherds, and Bats. And through Grandma Etta Mae to the Sidburys and our extended Howard line. This is your heritage. This is your story. And as you see here, um, we have a what year census is this? We have a marriage. We have the marriage records over here. Um, Named Edward J. Mitchell Male at 22 years old. Um, Estimated birth year of 1924. Remember, I was telling you that. Um, Estimated birth year 1924. The spouse named Etta Mae Batts, and she was 19 years old, and her birth year was roughly 1927. Estimated. This type was a marriage, and is the event date is August 1946. And as you see right here, on this record right here, we have we have John Mitchell. We have Granddad here, and he's the son of John Mitchell and Maggie Shepard. Maggie Shepard is the daughter of Noah Shepard and Dora Batts. So this is where you got your connection to the Batts from Granddad. Your granddad mother is a Batts. No, granddad's mother is a Batts by way of her mother. Of course, okay, so she's a Shepherd by her father's last name, but she's also a Batts as well. And she's only one generation away from the Batts. So Granddad is also, he's a Batts and he's a Shepherd simultaneously, and a Mitchell. Etta Mae Batts, okay, by way of William Sidbury and Evelyn Adele Batts, our grandmother, is, you know, Etta Mae Batts, Sidbury going back this way, but you have her father, her mother is a Batts by way of Noah Batts and Hattie Howard. This is where the Howard family come in. So you see, you're the Batts, you're a Batts this way, and you're also a Batts that way. So either way, with your grandparents, you're a Batts, and there's no way to just take away the Batts all the way from Etta Mae. Okay, and here's a picture of Granddad around the time that they would have got married. This picture right here, this is Granddad. I'm not sure exactly when this picture was taken. And then this is a picture of our grandmother, Etta Mae. I'm not sure when that picture was, I'm not sure what year that picture was taken. And this is Etta Mae's mother, Evelyn Adele Batts. And I wanted to I'll place her picture up here so I can show you where a lot of you are wondering, like, why there's so many lighter skinned people in the family. When you go through your grandmother's side, you're gonna find out that your grandma, like, you have, my mother is light skinned, Aunt Dad is light skinned. I'm not sure the complexion of Aunt Marion. I'm thinking that Aunt Marion is more closer to the complexion of Granddad. But you'll see that the light complexion comes from the grandmothers of the family. Okay? This is let's go back. The family tree grows. Edward and Etta Mae raised a beautiful family together. Their children were Harvey Mitchell, Dorothy Mitchell. This is in no order, no particular order. Horace Mitchell, Eva Mitchell, Tommy Mitchell, Edward Mitchell, Mary Mitchell. And these are the names that we know are aunts and uncles as. Of course, they have official, like Tommy Mitchell is going to be John Tommy Mitchell, who's named after his grandfather. Eva Mitchell is going to be Eva Alporian Mitchell. Aunt Marion You know, you got Dorothy L. So the names get a little bit deeper than what we say. But these are names that we know, so that's the names I use. Each of them carries a part of Granddad's strength, his stories, and values to the world today. So here we go right now. We had a 1950 census. Okay, and on this 1950 census, you see Edward J. Mitchell, 25 years old. You see here the birth year is estimated at 1925. Okay, residence, Topsail, Pender County, married, and occupation was wrecking building, and this was in the lumber, in the lumber industry, and he could have gotten that type of job or occupation by way of his father who worked in that same field. Of course, the race, Negro, head of the household, father's birthplace, USA, mother, okay. And so you see in the household, you have Aunt Dot, Dorothy Mitchell, you had Uncle Harvey, you had and his wife Etta Mae, and you also had his son Horace. They spelled that real quick. So at this point in time, in wait a minute, yeah, the 1950 census. In 1950, these were the only ones that were living in the house together at that point in time. But you see, the children that are listed, we have Aunt Marion, we have Aunt Dot, Dorothy Jones, Uncle Tessie, Edward J. Mitchell Jr., Harvey Mitchell, Horace Mitchell, John Mitchell. The life of labor and legacy. Granddad was a man of many trades and responsibilities. At one point, he worked as a manager at a housing complex in Holly Ridge. A lot of people remember that over there by the pipe plant, there were these brick buildings. They were white brick buildings. And there was some on this side, then there's a road that go this way, and then there was a big ditch or a hill or something. And there were more housing complex on the other side, and those buildings got torn out. And I think where the spot that we lived at, there's like a where we lived at, it's like right across the street from where that pipe plant. Well, they just closed that pipe plant down, but where that pipe plant was at. Right now, there's a nursing home sitting in the same spot where the house used to be at. Granddad was a man of many trades. At one point, manager of a housing complex in Holly Ridge. Many of us lived there during those years, seeing him each day as a calm and guiding presence in the neighborhood. I remember me and Sebastian and some other bad kid out there. The kid was bad, not me and Sebastian. And this kid says, "I'm like, we're going to make a barbecue," and he started a fire out there, and we left and ran off, and Granddad had to come and put the fire out. He also, Granddad, Edward J. He also spent time working at a pork plant, a detail still being researched but widely remembered. I remember when I think that pipe plant now is off of 17. They do some type of other business in there, like with steel or something like that. He also a detail and more than that, Granddad once ran his own hog pen, a venture born from humble beginnings. As the story goes, he did a job for someone who paid him with both money and a small pig. That one pig grew into something far more, a lucrative business that sustained him and taught all of us a lesson in turning opportunity into legacy. From running a juke joint in his youth to managing housing and livestock in his later years, Granddad's work ethic was unmatched. His journey reflects the spirit of a man who adapted, preserved, and made the most of what life gave him. Here's a picture of, see this picture right here? You got a picture of Uncle Tessie. Uncle Tessie always told me that he used to tell me, "Well, I used to be as small as you." I said, "No way, Uncle Tessie." But there go a picture of Uncle Tessie, J. Reed size. You see a picture of Uncle Tommy, Uncle John Tommy, picture, and Granddad in the middle with his full head of hair. Granddad kept, I don't know where my hair went. Granddad kept his all the way to the end. And you see see that address? That's Tara's house. We have a picture with him and Aunt Dot. We have a picture with him. We have a picture with him and Aunt Dot here. We have a picture of him and my mother Eva. Cora. Have more pictures. There's a picture of Uncle Horace. I couldn't find a picture of Uncle Horace and Granddad at the same time. I'm sure there's some that exist, but you know, with the limited amount of time I had to get this prepared for the family reunion, it's kind of difficult. Here's a picture with Uncle Tessie. Now, this the Uncle Tessie I remember in my adult years. Uncle Tessie eventually went from that size to this size. He got bigger. Okay. And then there's another picture of let's see, move this over right here. This picture right here is a picture of Uncle Tommy. Zoom in a little bit so you can see Uncle Harvey. Uncle Harvey, the one right standing next to Uncle Tommy. I'm not sure who the little girl is, but that's Aunt Dot, and that's my Uncle Julian. These are classic pictures. Alright, so then we were talking about the juke joint. Okay, the Shady Rest. Alright, a lot of people remember the Shady Rest. I could not find any pictures of it. I'm going to go and look. I'm not going to rest until I find a picture of the Shady Rest. But the Shady Rest was located on Shepherd Road, where on the land. And I remember that building. I remember going inside of that building. You know, by the time I was young, born, it wasn't jumping as it was in its earlier years, but yes, I do remember Shady Rest. I remember the pool tables in there. I remember the what do they call that? What do they call that thing? I'm getting so what was that called? That jukebox. Yeah, the jukebox. Go in the juke joint. That's why they call it the juke joint. The jukebox was in there. Okay. In the early years, Granddad operated the Shady Rest, a social spot on Shepherd Road that many now would call a juke joint. The building itself has long since been torn down, but its memory still lives on, and the stories passed down from generation to generation. We remember the booths, facts, the pool table, facts, and the atmosphere filled with music, laughter, and life. There's a couple times that people went in there and played music, but what I'm saying is it wasn't to its full capacity after I was born. And little Granddad, and I still for the life of me, this, I'm not sure where this was at. I'm thinking that this is going to be over there next to his house that he lived on Mare Holland. This looks like Peanut's house. I might be wrong. Right? From the juke joint to the church house. In his later years, Granddad took on a new calling, became deacon at Gethsemane Church. In the church community, both local and beyond, he was known not as Edward or Mr. Mitchell. He was simply and respectfully called Deacon Mitchell, or affectionately Deacon. His faith, presence, and wisdom made him a pillar in that space, offering prayers, counsel, and calm to those in need. I took Granddad I used to drive Granddad. I remember in his last years, he didn't want to drive anymore. I used to drive his Cadillac, and I used to take him to different places, and we would go in the house and pray for people, and I remember doing that. And this picture right here, if you see the picture at the top, where Granddad, that was cropped out. This is his wife, Jeanette, and it wasn't disrespect for cropping her out of the picture, but I just needed a picture of Granddad by himself, because the legacy book was made in his honor. This Granddad behind the church setting, behind the pulpit. A lot of people remember Granddad walking like this, and his lady later years, after his his back start kind of like bending forward. But what we joke, I remember granddad, it was me, granddad, and E Money, and granddad popped up and asked E Money, "Can you fight?" And I was like, "Yo, when granddad popped up on you like that, he was tall as you, E Money." We laughed about that. There's a picture of granddad smiling. His wife, his last wife, Jeanette. Jeanette Mitchell. Uh, Good pictures of granddad in the church. A life of love, again and again. After the passing of his beloved Etta Mae, granddad eventually married Miss Ethel. And I remember Miss Ethel, who became Grandma Ethel to many of us. She too has passed on, but her memory remains part of this story. In later years, granddad married Jeanette Sidbury, with whom he spent the rest of his life. Through this union, he became stepfather to her children, Peanut, Louie, and others you may know, extending his love and guidance beyond bloodlines. Through joy, hardship, faith, and family, Edward J. Mitchell endured. His heart remained open, his hands always busy, and his presence always felt. Okay, and here's the marriage record when he got married to Grandma Ethel. And can I zoom in that record? No, I can't zoom all the way in. But there's the record where you see in 19, they were married in 1975. And then after she passed away, he married Jeanette Sidbury, and she became Jeanette Mitchell. And they were married in 1989, also in Burbank. Okay. Centennial Reflection. On May 15, 2025, we mark the 100th year, the centennial of Edward J. Mitchell's birth. Though he's no longer with us in the physical, okay, let me move this over. So, though he's no longer with us in the physical, his spirit, strength, and smile are very much alive, seen in the faces of his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. His presence lives on. Yeah, this is a good picture right here, Granddad. Picture of Granddad, Uncle Tommy. Picture of Uncle Tessie, Angel, and Granddad. Picture of Granddad in Mom's house. Grandma, Uncle Sabbath. Another picture of Granddad. This original picture had Uncle Tessie in it, but we had cropped it. We cropped this picture and made it clear as for the tombstone. Here's the original picture. This was created for the family reunion 2025. Thank you for celebrating Edward J. Mitchell's legacy with us. This is a QR code. For those who didn't get an actual physical copy, you can take a picture of this QR code, or I'll leave a link in the bottom of this video where you can download this booklet as an ebook, as a PDF, so that you can keep it permanent. And there you have it. So that was the presentation that would have been made, and would have been extra dialogue to go along with it. But we had so much fun. We had so much fun and such a great time. And it was just everything just got away from us. But yeah, so there it is. Edward J. Mitchell, Family Legacy, the Centennial Celebration, 1925 to 2025. Thank you for watching. And this is a private family channel, so I expect all the family members to subscribe to this. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, keep this, so we can add it to this, and we'll keep the legacy going on. All right, thank you.